you want people to keep up their technical skills, but they also need to work on their, emotional EQ. And I use the word soft skills, but sometimes I think that's deceiving because soft skills aren't always easy. And especially for, I'm going to say more technical people, it's not always our most comfortable place. And so to actually work on those types of skills from the very beginning of your career can pay huge dividends.
Welcome back to the Data Bites podcast, everyone. I have the pleasure of interviewing a legend, I will say, in the data space, Eileen Verdreen. She was formerly the Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Officer for the Department of Air Force and was for the Chief Data and AI Office. Now she leads an advisory board member at multiple different organizations and does her own work in consulting. But she has had just an extensive career within leadership, within the military, and we are lucky to have her on the podcast today. Eileen, welcome to the Data Bites podcast. I really want to dive right into your leadership journey because I feel like you broke so many barriers, not only being a chief data officer, a chief AI officer, but also what I think a lot of people would tend to think is a really like male dominated field of being in the military as well, let alone male dominated field from a chief data officer and AI officer. Can you share with us a little bit more about your leadership journey into that role? And what were some of those pivotal moments or decisions that significantly impacted your career trajectory?
Sadie, I'm super excited to be here today. So thank you for inviting me. Well, Sadie, I've had the non-traditional career. So I think it's first I look at this, it's like it's okay to have a non-traditional career. Um, but I started as an enlisted soldier and I got commissioned in the Army, in the Department of the Army. And I got commissioned through officer candidate school. And I was a transportation officer. And in the logistics field, there's so much data. And so it made sense that from a very early point, data was part of my core DNA. And I always knew I wanted to serve. So it was very interesting. I spent 10 years on active duty or just shy of 10 years. And then I pivoted out to industry and academia, but I came back to federal service after 9/11 to support the intelligence community in multiple roles. First at the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and then Office of Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. But I think that one of the pivotal roles that was really a game changer for me was I got selected to be a White House Leadership Fellow. And it was a brand new program. I was in cohort 2, and it was really about um, working cross-cutting problems across all of government, being in the center of government, and trying to lead in areas where you didn't necessarily have the authority. And you had to really push the envelope and get stuff done. And it wasn't just about being the best leader you could, but being the best person. And that made me realize that my skills that I had pretty much worked really hard for inside the Department of Defense, uh, worked out, in harder problem sets. But it also reinforced how important it is when you have the opportunity to serve and lead to really do great work. And I think that one of the things that I've also learned throughout my career is the importance of breadth and depth. So early in my career, I volunteered to learn budget and contracting as one of those extra duties. It is a skill that I have used in every leadership job that I've had. So sometimes you raise your hand to volunteer to do something and you don't realize the impact of what it can have in the downward trajectory of it. So it's really about being bold and intentional and just being all in wherever you are.
Yeah, I want to dive a little bit more into that first point that you made from the fellowship, which is like, how do you lead in areas where maybe you don't fully have the authority or position yet? Because I think a lot of, even particularly the women or younger people, maybe they know that they want to develop some of their leadership skills, but haven't been given that title or that team yet. How do you start to, get that practice and experience in leadership before you get the official title and official team?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because I always look at what people's soft skills are. Like when I have people on my team and they tell me they want to go to a technical conference, and you want people to keep up their technical skills, but they also need to work on their emotional EQ. And and I use the word soft skills, but sometimes I think that's deceiving because soft skills aren't always easy. And especially for, I'm going to say, more technical people, it's not always our most comfortable place. And so to actually work on those types of skills from the very beginning of your career can pay huge dividends. I think the other piece that I learned is the importance of partnerships and collaboration. It's amazing what you can get done when you have great partners and you let them shine. And so, um, building those relationships early, um, you don't know where your paths. The data and AI communities are so much smaller than people realize. Um, that it's really important to cultivate those relationships. And I think that's what's so great about groups like Women in Data because it gives you that community to build upon. It becomes, I like to say, our data and AI family.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And I don't know if it's because on the Data Bites podcast, I interview a lot of technical people, and everyone I interview also agrees that soft skills do not equal easy skills. And maybe we should rename them or switch it because the soft skills are really the harder ones to develop, but so essential, even in technical roles that you're in, to have those soft skills. How do you recommend that people work on and develop those? So if you have someone on your team who comes to you, or maybe you have some leaders underneath you who are looking to really strengthen their EQ and soft skills, what's some practical advice that people can do to really start to hone in and work on those skills?
Well, I think practice really helps people. And so you have to kind of um, put yourself out there and say, I'm going to practice in this area. And there are classes, but I like to use the peer mentoring coach. Everybody in their network has a peer that's awesome at something that they're not awesome at. How do you help each other get stronger, as a team? And the team really becomes even, I would say more impactful when every member of the team is a little bit stronger. So it doesn't have to be, you know, um, that senior junior relationship. I think there's so much value in working with your peers to help each other get better, whether it's technical or soft skills. And so I think that's one approach. There's always short classes, I would say micro certifications, whether it's, you know, LinkedIn or some of these short classes, they're all over the place. And yes, you can take them, but practice really helps. And getting and that's why I say work with your friends because, one, you'll both become stronger, but they all working with that, helps foster a better team relationship, and they can give you the honest truth in terms of whether you're getting better or you how much work you still need to do.
Yeah, I think that, so often we forget just how much we can learn from our peers. We're looking for like that maybe mentor who's that senior executive leader, and it's like maybe who this is in a way our mentor or our teacher is that peer right next to us, and who's going through some of the same things that we're going through. So I think that's really well received advice. I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned in the beginning of your career working with logistics, and it reminds me of another guest we had on the Data Bites podcast, Joyce Myers, who started in the Army as well. And I loved because she did such a great historical interview for us about, she used to work with data when it was drawing it out on paper and just how far it's come. And it's really just inspiring how much has been developed and how much new technology has been developed. But I have a feeling that the chief data officer role was not one that existed when you began your career. So how do you stay adaptable and kind of have a vision of the future when maybe some of the roles today that will be as leaders in the next 10, 20 years don't even exist?
Well, part of that is just, I'm going to say you got to dream big and you got to be ready. Okay. There are jobs that don't exist today that will be, I'm going to say there in 3 years or 5 years. And so the only way you can even, you have to be bold and you have to be ready. So I'm going to say you have to have this lifelong commitment to being curious and upskilling. And it's like always looking at how can I improve? I don't worry about what my peer group is doing. I'm looking at how can I be the best technical leader, the best soft skills leader, whatever I'm trying to learn. How can I be the best possible person in a future role? And I would also say that you have to go back to being bold and intentional, because we know that there's a lot of statistics out there where women in particularly don't apply for a job unless they feel that they're like perfect for it. They see something um, on your favorite job listing site. And some of the jobs ask for like 15 years of experience in an emerging tech that hasn't even existed 15 years. So the person that's writing it may not even be the expert. It just looked good. Or but when you don't actually put your name in for consideration, the chances of getting picked are really slim. So you have to be a little bit bold, but you have to be ready. And if you're not perfect, you may not realize how perfect you are. It's just, uh, I like to say I'm a soldier who got hired by the Department of the Air Force to lead data. That's non traditional, but building relationships inside the organization delivered some of the best capability. And I'm just super excited to see what uh the next leader is going to accomplish, because we built a runway, and now there's just more and more capability that will just evolve over time. So that's bold and intentional comes back to a foundational framework.
I'm sure everything in your career was not just an easy breeze of one one step to the other. Can you share a specific example of maybe a challenge that you faced while you were in leadership and how you overcame that challenge, or what some of the lessons that you learned from it were?
So I'm going to go back to starting up in office at being the chief data officer. Not only was I a non traditional selection, I'm sure that there were many people that was like, who is this person and what are they here to do? Which was fine. But my team wasn't even on the organizational chart when I got hired. I was an idea. Okay. And the so the first challenge I would say is, how do you start an office from ground zero when you're a new capability? Your peers and some of your seniors are really uncertain because they're not really sure because you're brand new, and but you have to deliver value. So the first thing I did was I put together a game plan, but I used an agile approach. And how do I incrementally deliver capability and show value? If I waited, I mean, if we look at the average tenure of a CDO, which is maybe 2.5 years, and industry right now, you don't have it, I think that part of the challenge is if you're not showing uh, your leadership every 100 days, what you're bringing to the table, what your team is delivering, it's really hard to continue to justify investment. So, step one is agile approach, deliver capability, have a game plan. The second one comes back to um, those partnerships are critical. I literally called up various military executives and got on senior leaders' calendars. I went with a brief of like, this is how we can tackle some of your hardest problems together. Like, let me help you, deliver great value, make it meaningful for them. So I comes I go back to let your partner shine. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you let your partners get some of it's not about credit. It's about capability to design, and they will be your partners for a really long time. But I think the one thing that and I just recently told this to a person that I mentored was um part of my reflection when I look back at my journey, um, how important strategic comms is um, to be critical in your portfolio. Uh, when you're a data or a technical person, I'm not going to say strategic comms and speaking has to be your favorite thing to do, but it's really important to be able to um, make sure you're communicating the value that you bring to your organization and at the speed of relevancy. So when I look at that particular component, like right now, the Olympics are going on. Okay. There's a lot of um, measurement and metrics going on. When you can relate a problem set to something that's going on to the field that people can relate to, it becomes interesting to them. And then they can relate to that problem set. So finding ways to reduce the cognitive load to make it um, easy to digest and really demonstrate value, I think is really a critical component to any leader's portfolio. I think that when I look across my data peers, it's something that uh, we're constantly trying to find the effective and efficient messaging because it's not just what you message, but who you're messaging it to and how you're messaging it. And it's an art, and it comes back to breadth and depth of skill sets.
Thank you for sharing that, particularly in regards to starting an office from scratch, because, given that chief data and chief AI officers are new roles, a lot of people find themselves in these roles starting the office from scratch. And so I appreciate those tidbits of advice in terms of how to get started and show that value really quickly, and really coming at it from a standpoint of service to others. Once you have that team established and developed, how do you make sure that you're not maintaining just status quo, right? You've shown and proven that you have value, but really foster innovation and creativity, particularly within your data and AI teams.
Well, Gen AI has been a hot topic for the last year. Um, and we've seen a lot of stories in the news where companies shut stuff down. I would say you have to give your teammates the current state tools and a safe environment for them to be creative and see the art of the possible. So you have to give them a safe space to use the tools because they're going to use them, whether they use them in the work environment or they find someplace else to experiment. And then you have to empower them and really let them encourage that capability. Another a strategy that I've used to really focus people on impact is the trying to gamify hard problems. So, in year one of my organization, we partnered with a couple of innovation cells in the military department where I was working. And we ran our first hackathon and our first datathon. And we got problems from commanders in the field. And the first datathon brought people together that never had worked together before. And in 3 days, built an MVP that went into production that was used by tens of thousands of their teammates every single day. And it was like, be part of the solution. And so there's so much creativity out there, and I'm bringing these small innovation teams together and kind of like um help building these very creative teams for very short moments can really push people to think outside the box. And it also kind of sometimes can give them a little bit of bragging rights. Like, hey, I was, and it encourages them to do a lot more. In order for those types of creative innovation to take place, you have to have leadership that gives that top cover for people to be bold. When people are going to take risks, they have to know that their leadership is going to support them. If they do this, that they have that executive top cover to be bold, to think differently. And when you have that safe, creative, innovative space, the art of the possible is huge.
Yeah, I think that's so important is to create that safe environment for people. You know, we talk about wanting to have our team take risks, but if they don't know that there's something back for them to fall on, right? And that it's going to be a safe place, it's really hard to be able to have that courage to be able to take that risk. I'm also curious, how do you balance, you know, as you moved up in leadership positions, l- the balance between the technical knowledge that you need to have, but so much of your time is spent on partnerships and team building. How do you balance both really, kind of back to those hard skills and soft skills within a leadership role as you continue to progress throughout an organization?
Well, I think everybody has a different approach, but one of my approaches was I still teach as an adjunct faculty at George Washington University in the computer science department. I may not teach every semester. I love to teach undergraduate classes because they really, the creative young students really can push you to like new boundaries and think creatively. So that pushes me to stay current. So I like to say, stay technical, your technical skills got you to a certain point. So that built the foundation that allowed me to grow and move forward. And, but I have seen it's hard. You have to find outside the box ways to think about, and some of it may just be, I'm going to participate in a hackathon. I'm not going to lead it. I'm going to be a participant. I loved the fact that when we first when I first started my role in CEDIA, I actually partnered with the um, Department of the Air Force's Institute for Technology, and we grew first a graduate certificate program and then eventually a data science degree program. But in that particular opportunity, you had military civilian, you had people of all ranks taking classes, from enlisted to general officer, um, junior civilians, all the way to senior executives. Um, when they went to school, everybody was a student. Okay, that opportunity to learn. So everybody finds what works for them. It's not like one size fits all. It's really, you have to know who you are and find. Sometimes it's short courses for one person. Another one for me, staying in a computer science program helped make me stay loyal in to my technical roots. So, but find a strategy that works, and then you have to manage the time to do it. It may not be uh, every day. I don't always teach every semester, but I teach every year.
Yeah, I love to say that to teach is to learn. And so for me, teaching still is a very big part of my life because it's like every time I teach, I feel like I'm like always feel like I did just justice to my students because I'm like, you guys taught me more and I learned so much from you in the process. And so that's such a great way to give back and to still hone your skills.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I always feel like I get more out of it. Like, and then you just, it's amazing because we push each other to be better learners, better leaders, better listeners.
And I'm also going to reiterate your point of sign up for a datathon or a hackathon because Women in Data just announced today that our signups are available for our annual datathon. This year, we're doing it on Gen AI, and it's such a great opportunity for everybody to come in and meet new people, learn new skills. Last year, we did it for USDA, and they even the some of the winners of it changed policy, which to me is just incredible. And I'm guessing you know how hard it is to change policy, having worked in government. So it's just such a great opportunity to be able to continue to own those skills. There's not a better feeling, right? And then being part of the solution. So I'm curious for new leaders or emerging leaders, you kind of look at our political environment, our technical environment, and what's lies ahead. What's one piece of advice that you can give to leaders today and emerging leaders for tomorrow?
Well, I think staying relevant is critical. You have to look at not just where you are, but where you're going. A lot of times you get hired for a job, but you won't get hired for the next job if you're not continuing to do that investment to be ready, to be the best candidate for it. So I can't emphasize enough. Like today we're talking about data and AI, but tomorrow it's going to be quantum and probably something else that we're not even thinking about today. So you just kind of have to just stay in the game. And so I think that the other piece is like you got to go back to dreaming big because if you don't imagine yourself in a role, it's hard. It's harder to get there. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there are going to be amazing opportunities that don't exist today that people here will be ready for just by taking that forward leaning approach and being, I'm going to say, stay curious all of the time. Like, what's next? What's next? Because when you have that constant staying curious, that commitment to lifelong learning, uh, it's fun. I mean, and it's okay to have fun.
Yes. I think it's a good thing, right? It makes when you see a leader having fun and enjoying what they're doing, and just it spreads to the rest of the team as well. So I know you recently retired from the military, but that does not mean you were retired in life and I'm sure really busy already. What's kind of next on the horizon and what's the impact that you're looking to have?
Well, for me, it's really, I want to stay relevant in the space and have impact. And so I'm being very, I'm going to say selective. So I'm doing a little bit of strategic advisory work right now, a little bit of consulting work, and of course I'm teaching, which I love. But I think one of the funnest things I'm doing right now is doing volunteer work for nonprofits. Um, I'm sitting on the advisory board for Mark Cuban's AI Foundation, which is about AI boot camps for high school kids. And, that I think that's going to help build those types of capabilities, will build the next generation of leaders that we're talking about. They are future WIT members. And so but there are a lot of really great, both local, national, and international organizations that can use really great, uh, volunteer help. And so that was one of the first things I knew that nonprofit work was going to be part of it. I'm also doing a little bit of startup advising because I had worked with so many emerging tech companies and helping them bring uh, new emerging technology safely and securely into the federal space, which can prove challenging. Um, I want to try to continue to help those emerging tech companies get there because we need great tools to support our federal government, and and we need today's technologies now, like speed of relevance, speed of mission, and anything's possible. I'm taking, I'm trying to scale, um, but picking you can't do everything and do it great, so I'm kind of really picking and choosing, wisely so that I can, look to places where I can have the most impact. And again, it's really about, for me, building the next generation of leaders in the field, and if I can have any sort of support or impact in that, that's where I really want to build, help my colleagues build that next generation because we need them.
Definitely. Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast and share your wisdom and share your career and life lessons with us, because I think that is one of the first steps to helping build that next generation of leaders. And I'm just so grateful for everything you've done within the community and also just your leadership in this space as well. I love the quote, "You can't be what you can't see." And I think you've given a lot of individuals a vision of what is possible and, a vision of the roles that they may play themselves. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Well, thank you including me today. Data and AI are team sports, and together we are going to build that next generation of leaders. It takes all of us. I go back to it's a data and AI community and a data and AI family.
100%. Well, thank you, Eileen. Appreciate having you in the community and appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. And a big thank you to our listeners. Remember to stay curious and keep learning, and we'll catch you next time on the Data Bites podcast. Bye bye, everyone. If you are enjoying the conversations you are hearing today, we encourage you to continue to be a part of the conversation and join a community of like-minded, extraordinary women. With our free community membership, you're stepping into a realm where learning, networking, and growth are at the heart and soul of what we do. Connect with Women in Data's global community and network with our chapters, all for free. But why stop there? Upgrade your membership with a special offer for Data Bites listeners by getting $20 off a pro membership, in which you'll receive access to over 300 classes, leadership training, and exclusive events. If you're interested in mentorship and networking, we've got you. From monthly thought leadership webinars to exclusive networking events and a diverse on-demand mentorship program, the connections you'll make here are boundless. Join us and be part of a vibrant network. Dive into our book clubs, growth groups, and industry-focused gatherings. Women in Data is not just a community. It's a movement, a place where innovators, changemakers, and leaders come together to shape the future. Visit womenindata.org to join or use the special discount code in the show notes. Together, let's drive change one data byte at a time.